Alright guys, and welcome back to the channel for a video that comes around pretty much every single football related channel this time of year. Very controversial to say the least, and that is Premier League predictions. Now before we get into it, and I offend loads of you guys, do make sure you're subscribed if you're new to the channel. We are a Southampton channel, but do occasional Premier League videos, especially when some of them do well. So that's probably the main reason why I'm doing this video. And yeah, follow us on our socials as well, in the description below. Before I get into it, like I just said, don't get offended. All I'm doing is sharing my opinion. I think I've done some decent research on every Premier League team. I mean, I've been a Premier League fan all my life. I think I know the teams quite well. I watch the Premier League every weekend. I see a Premier League team every weekend. I think I know the league quite well, and I think I know the teams quite well and how it works. So yeah, I'm going to stop rambling. Please don't hype me in the comments. Starting off in 20th, and you know, I'm a bit gutted I'm putting this team there because I do like this team, but that is Sheffield United. It seems like everyone's go-to at the moment is to relegate Sheffield United or predict them to get relegated. And it's the recruitment. I'm just not impressed with any of the signings they've made. You know, getting Lys Mousset from Bournemouth, Freeman from QPR, Osborne from Nottingham Forest. I think Jagiel could make sense, bringing him in for a year. It's just not good enough. I think Mousset, there's a reason why he hasn't been able to get in the Bournemouth team. And the other two that I mentioned did okay for mid-table championship sides. Even Callum Robinson, mid-table at Preston. It'll be interesting to see how Ravel Morrison does, as previously being dubbed about 5-6 years ago as one of the best talents in the world under Sir Alex Ferguson. We'll see about that, but can he do it on a cold Tuesday night at Bramall Lane? We will see. So yeah, I'm very interested to see how they cope in the Premier League this season, back for the first time in, is it 13 years? 12, 13 years? So it's been a while since they've been in the top flight. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what they can do. Obviously Billy Sharp, ex-Saints player, is playing for them still. I hope he does well. I just don't feel that squad is Premier League ready. Another team that everyone seems to be predicting to go down this season, and I have to agree, in 19th, that is Brighton and Hove Albion. They finished last season so poorly, like it was an absolute joke, and really they should have gotten relegated, let's not lie about it. I do think that they haven't recruited well either. You know, Trossard could be a decent player. I think he plays on the winger as a midfielder. They've spent decent money on him, like 16 to 18 million pounds. They've also brought in that defender from that club down the road who we won't mention. Yeah, business hasn't been great from them. Obviously the transfer window hasn't ended yet. That's the same applies for all these clubs. The transfer window hasn't ended yet, so they may make that signing that changes their position. But at the moment, they really don't look like they can actually score goals. Glenn Murray, you know, we say it every year, but he is really getting on a bit now, and they cannot rely on him. Jurgen Locadia, I always thought he was a good signing at the time, didn't get the chances. Maybe he could be the striker they need to score the goals, but yeah, I'm really not hopeful for Brighton's season this year. Now, finishing up the relegation zone in 18th, I've put Burnley. Now, that may be a shock to some people, but I really think that their style of football has expired. People have worked them out now. You know, there's nothing really that great. They had a bad season last year. They struggled a bit, flirted with relegation for the majority of the season after starting the campaign in Europe qualifying. Unfortunately, they didn't get through to the group stage of the Europa League after a very good season in 2017-18. Again, it's down to recruitment. I really don't think they've recruited that well. They've brought in Eric Peters, who's a left back from Stoke. He didn't have the best season in the Championship last year. They've also brought in Jay Rodriguez, but obviously, you know, we love him as Southampton fans, but he just isn't the same player that left Burnley and sort of did well under Mauricio Pochettino for Southampton. It was nice to see him do well in the Championship for West Brom last year, but ultimately they didn't get promoted. And you know, when you base it off the Premier League, his last couple of seasons up there, he just hasn't done that well, and I really don't think he's a player that they needed, because with the form of Ashley Barnes and Chris Wood, generally they've been able to get about 15 goals between them, which has been enough to keep Burnley up. You know, I'm just not sure about them, and I think it's probably about time, and I do think they're going to have another season flirting with the relegation zone, and personally, I do think it might be a bit too much this year for them. Now this could also be controversial, like all the positions I've put these teams in. 17th I put Crystal Palace. Now I like Crystal Palace, I thought they did well enough last season, but you know, this is mainly if they sell Zaha and don't replace him. The problem with what is going on with this whole Zaha situation is they've left it so late. You know, if they're going to sell him, ideally they would have sold him first, second week of the transfer window like they did with Wan-Bissaka, so they had the time to replace. However, I don't even think they've replaced Wan-Bissaka yet. You know, they haven't brought in a right back who's good enough. They brought in Jordan Ayew on a permanent deal after his loan spell from Swansea last year. They've also brought in a goalkeeper from Nottingham Forest on a free. That's all they've done so far. And I'm really not hopeful for their season. At the moment, they've got Benteke up front, Wickham as well. I really don't think they'll be able to score the goals that Palace need to stay up. I think it's going to be more a case of the fact that we've got VAR. Milivojevic is going to get all those penalties, but then Zaha's not going to be diving to get the penalty. So we'll see. You know, he may stay, and if Zaha does stay, I think they will finish higher. But at the moment, I worry for Crystal Palace. I think their recruitment hasn't been good enough. Their squad looks quite thin at the moment. And you know, Roy Hodgson, you feel like his tactics are a bit old-fashioned, and it will be really interesting to see how they do this year, because I think they're starting to fall behind. Now in 16th, I've put some people's favourites for relegation. Personally, I think they'll stay up. That is Newcastle United. It's a really unfortunate situation they have found themselves in. Once again, Mike Ashley has proven to be useless. But then again, £40 million for Joelinton, you know, that shows ambition. But he only scored 9 goals in the Bundesliga apparently, and they've spent all that money. He's 22. He could be a really good player, but it's still not enough. They've brought in Alma on in January. He was okay. He's now back fit. Hopefully he can do well for them. But selling Perez probably will hinder them a little bit. You know, no recruitment in other positions. It does look quite bleak for Newcastle. Steve Bruce, I mean, that is just such a poor appointment in so many levels, and I'm really not the one to talk about that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really difficult season for Newcastle, but I do think they will just about stay up. Now in 15th, I've put another newly promoted side, and that is Aston Villa. Very excited to see them back in the league. I'm very intrigued to see how they do. Europe's top spenders as it stands, £100 million on player transfers. They needed to do it. You know, the squad just was not good enough for the Premier League, and you say all these people going, oh, they're the new Fulham. I don't think they will go down. I think their squad actually looks quite good at the moment. I think it's more a case of Dean Smith. We have no clue how he's going to do in the Premier League. Did well at Brentford, did very well to get Aston Villa from mid-table up into the playoffs. With that amazing winning run. I'm really excited to see what they can do. A massive club, deserves to be in the Premier League. I like Jack Grealish. I think he's got something to prove after being a youngster in the season where they went down. He's now obviously grown up a little bit more, become their captain. He's got a lot to prove, and you know, Wesley, I think he's a decent signing. He looks quite a sharp striker. Hopefully Matt Targett, obviously they bought him from Southampton at my club. Hopefully he can do well. I really hope he can. But yeah, I think their business has been decent, and it's business they had to make. At the end of the day, they've got owners that are willing to spend money, and they had to spend the money. But this season it's more a case of they just need to stay up. They don't need to push on. They might do, who knows. But I think it's just making sure that they stay up. They still have the Premier League money, because going into another season of the Championship, whilst they've just spent over £100 million on transfers, isn't going to be ideal. And if they stay up, then they've got the opportunity to build and push for the higher ends of mid-table. 14th, I've put the last newly promoted side, and that is Norwich City. I really like their squad. I think they played very good football in the Championship last year. They're exciting, they're front-footed, attacking really well. I do worry about their defence a little bit. Daniel Farke seems to be quite a decent coach, and I'm really excited to see how they fare with all those young players in that team. I think it's very different also since the last couple of years where they have been promoted and just gone straight back down. You know, it's the best team they've had. They've come up as champions as opposed to winning the playoffs. I think this year is probably their best year for quite a while of staying up after a promotion. So it's great to have them back. I like Norwich as a club. Yeah, not much to say. I just hope they stay up. And then it's like with Aston Villa, if they can stay up, then they've got the opportunity to push on and finish in the higher ends of mid-table next season or the seasons to come. In 13th, I've put Watford. Yeah, I'm not too sure about Watford this year. I think they could finish lower, could finish higher. You know, you just don't know with these things. But their squad at the moment, it doesn't really scream quality to me. If they bring in Sarr, as I've filmed this, it's not confirmed, but if they do bring in Sarr, hopefully that'll give them a bit more goal output, and then hopefully from there they can score more goals to finish higher. It's a shame they didn't finish in the top half last year, because they were excellent up until April-May time, when they sort of dropped off a little bit. Having Deulofeu is a good sign for them, and I don't think Garcia's a mug. I don't think they will be fighting relegation this year. I really don't think they've got a squad at the moment capable of pushing for Europe once again. You know, they had to bring in a centre back. They've done that. Craig Dawson, really, could they not have gone for a better choice? You know, he's 30, 31, I think. Did okay for West Brom. Well, he did well in the Championship. I won't lie about it. He did well in the Championship, but ultimately West Brom didn't go up, and that's why he's got his move. But 2017-18, the season West Brom went down, he was appalling. So we'll see. But I don't think Watford have much to look forward to this year. I think it's going to be comfortable mid-table. That's what they want, fine. But you know, they've been in the Premier League for a good number of years now. It's got to a point where really they should be pushing for the top half again. In 12th, I've put Bournemouth. Now originally I was going to put them lower, but then I thought, you know, actually they have quite a good attack. It's just a shame about the defence for them. My opinions on Bournemouth as a football club are quite mixed. The fact that the fans think it's a derby when they play us is an absolute joke. They seem to forget that we played a charity match for them to raise money so they wouldn't go into administration, and they think they're our rivals now. It's funny how things work, isn't it? You know, they're quite funny, Bournemouth fans, to trigger on Twitter. That's usually what comes around when we play them. I like to fish a little bit and they catch the bait. But going on to their squad, I think the recruitment's been okay. They've brought in Billing from Huddersfield. I think they've overpaid for him, but who don't you overpay for now? Apparently he's a good young midfielder. I can't lie, I didn't really watch Huddersfield last year, so I can't comment on him. But you know, I hear good things, so hopefully he does well for them. Their attack still looks very good. Josh King, Callum Wilson, obviously the main striker, he's signed a new deal. Big news for them. The defence still looks quite shabby though. They got caught out a couple of times last year, especially towards the back end of the season. And you know, I'm a bit confused as to what Bournemouth's ambition is now, because obviously it's still, let's not lie, it's a tiny football club still. This is going to be their 5th consecutive season in the Premier League, and they've only finished in the top half once. Haven't really pushed for Europe at all. You know, what do Bournemouth fans want? If you're a Bournemouth fan watching this, let us know in the comments. But yeah, I really don't know where they lie this season. Could finish lower, but I really don't see them pushing any higher than sort of 11th or 10th. Now this could surprise a few people, but in 11th I've put Wolverhampton Wanderers. That's mainly assuming that they get through to the Europa League group stages, because at the moment, no word of a lie, their squad looks pretty thin. I think they will struggle if they go through in Europe, not in terms of fighting against relegation, but they're not going to be near the point where they were in the Premier League last year, where they were pretty much around 7th, 8th the whole time. They've still got a very good squad. They haven't let anyone go of note. Cavaliero and Helder Costa have gone down to the Championship, but you know, they've still got Jota, Neves, Jimenez. It's a very good squad still, and they've brought in Vallejo, I think that's how you pronounce it, Real Madrid on a loan, a defender. I think he could do well. But yeah, the business hasn't really stood out to me. If they bring in Catron, who's at the moment having a medical, apparently as I'm filming this, he's probably confirmed by the time this video's out, he could do okay. Didn't score too many goals for Milan, so it's a, you know, I'm not too sure about Wolves this year, but hopefully they can have a good European campaign, because the fans would love that. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with Wolves, but at the moment I think it's going to be around 11th to 14th for them in the league if they get through to the Europa League group stages, and maybe even worse for them if they get through to the knockouts. Now in 10th I've put Everton. Some people may think, actually probably most people will think they should be put higher, but at the moment, you know, they look like they're going to bring in Moise Kean, who's a decent striker from Juventus, young as well. But the squad doesn't look as good as, you know, some people may think when talk about them pushing to break the top 6 mould. The defence is decent enough, but they haven't got Zuma this year. Pickford had a pretty decent year in goal. They brought in Andrew Gomez on a permanent deal, which was important, especially now that Gana Gay has been sold to PSG. They look like they're trying to bring in Lamina actually, so that'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But at the moment, even if they do get Keane, I'm just not too sure on them. I think Marco Silva is still quite overrated. He hasn't really proved himself as well as you'd think, given what some people say about him. But look, Everton are clearly good enough to finish 7th or maybe even 6th with the sort of status of Man United and Chelsea at the moment. But for me, yeah, I'm not as convinced. I think it's going to be 10th for them this year. Now, I don't need any biased comments in the whatever. In 9th, I put Southampton, who are my club. And, you know, I've seen some prediction videos putting Southampton in the top half, which I think, you know, you've done your research, mate. And then I see them put 15th in HITC's prediction video. Now that It's not me being salty, it's just very, very clear that no one has done their research when they're putting Southampton 15th, 16th, 17th, or maybe even saying they're going to get relegated, right? It's just not the case. Our manager is, for me, our manager is the best out of the top 6. It was Nuno Santos last year. For now, I think it is Hasenhüttl. I've got so much, there's so many things I could say about that man. That obviously all positive, but he just absolutely changed the mindset of the fans after 2-3 really, really poor managers. And I don't think a single fan in our fan base worries about relegation this year, which is quite nice, because obviously we've had 2 very poor years fighting and getting very close to relegation. But you know, we brought in Che Adams, who's I think he's going to be an absolute unreal signing from us for us, £15 million, and if he can get 15 to 20 goals in the Premier League, what a bargain that will be. Can we just say he's 23, he's just turned 23 even, very young, very hungry. You know, he thinks that they're going to win the league. Not too sure about that. But we've also brought in Moussa Djenepo. Haven't seen any of him, not going to lie. He's been away at AFCON and then he's only just come back. So hopefully we can see him in the final pre-season game before we start our Premier League season. Also, Danny Ings is coming on a permanent deal. We knew that was going to happen. So I think the attack looks really good, really strong. Redmond looks on fire as well. It's more about the defence. Now, we said at the beginning of the window that we needed to bring in a centre-back. Still hasn't happened. We haven't even been linked with centre-backs, which is an absolute joke, really. So I hope we can be linked with a centre-back and get a centre-back in before the end of the window. You know, I think some fans in our fan base have overreacted a bit more than necessary. Definitely more than I have. I've been quite relaxed with the whole thing because our first choice pairing are Yannick Vestergaard and Jan Bednarek. Playing together, they're absolutely fine. I think they're going to be absolutely fine. Have a whole pre-season under Hasenhüttl. They'll know what they need to do. Easy. It's if one of them gets injured where we're well and truly screwed. Now, Wesley Hoyt, Jack Stevens as backup. Mario Sheed is getting on now. He's not looked as good as he has at times throughout his entire Southampton career. I think he's great, but throughout his entire career, he's been a liability at times. So we'll have to see what happens in the defence department. Fullback wise, we look fantastic. We sold Matt Targett for 17 million, which we spent on Che Adams and had more left over. And we've now got Jake Vokins coming through from the under-23s. He looks fantastic. Jan Valery, you know, I think everyone who watched the Premier League in last year who saw Southampton's rise under Hasenhüttl, they saw that Valery was a pivotal player in that rise. And we've also got Cedric back, who looks to start as second choice, but very good backup if he is to stay. Sofiane Boufal's come back from his loan spell at Celta Vigo, looks like he'll stay. And under Hasenhüttl, who knows what that man can do. So, very exciting season ahead for Southampton. Not good enough at the moment to get 7th. However, having said that, usually the team who gets 7th actually aren't the favourites at the beginning of the season. So we will see. I think our fans will take 9th to 14th. I'll take 11th or 12th, but I do think we are good enough to finish in the top half this year. And it's a very exciting season ahead. In 8th, Leicester City. Now, all this stuff I've read about Leicester being ready to break the top 6 mould and guaranteed for Europe. Personally, I disagree. You know, I think they've got a very good team and I won't be surprised if they get 7th. I will be surprised if they break the top 6 because I do think still it's a little bit too far away from the rest of the teams to break it. But, you know, the signing's great. Tielemans, they had to bring him in on a permanent deal. Very good signing. Jose Perez, you know, I think the signing's been overrated a little bit only because he only did well in the second half of the season for Newcastle when they needed him to do well. If you look at his entire Newcastle career, he's actually been pretty inconsistent. So I'd be interested to see how he does for Leicester, obviously in a better team. James Justin, backup right back from Luton, you know, decent enough. It'll be interesting to see if Maguire goes, how they manage without him. But yeah, you know, very good team. They can score goals, they can stop goals going in at the other end. But for me at the moment, I don't think they will get Europe, and that's just my opinion. It's partly to fight the trends. You know, I don't follow the trends as much. But yeah, we'll see how Leicester do. Now in 7th, this team has actually gone quite under the radar, I think. But if you look at their first choice starting lineup, it's actually really good. It's West Ham. They've brought in Sebastian Haller from Frankfurt. Apparently he was their second choice for bringing in a striker after Arnautovic was an absolute snake and went to China. He's an arsehole, he can go. Maxi Gomez from Celta Vigo was the first choice. Now, let's just put it in perspective. Maxi Gomez with Celta Vigo finished 17th in La Liga, nearly got relegated in La Liga. Sebastian Haller got to the semi-finals of the Europa League and did pretty well in the Bundesliga. I wonder who I would have chosen. But yes, they've got their man, they've replaced Arnautovic with a much better replacement in my opinion. Also bringing in Fornals from Villarreal is an underrated signing. I think he's going to be very good in the Premier League for West Ham. And even the other players, Diop at the back, Anderson on the wing, Rice in midfield, even Fabianski in goal, you know, Pellegrini as manager. They've got a very good side, and I think, you know, not a dark horse, because I think they've got, people know they've got a good squad, but you know, this year I think it's going to be Europe for West Ham. Now, this is a bit of the boring bit. We're going into the top 6. I don't think anyone's breaking the mould this year. We're the closest to someone breaking the mould in my opinion, but yeah, I still don't think it's going to happen. In 6th I put Chelsea. Now, I really don't agree with this Frank Lampard appointment. I'm not a Chelsea fan, so obviously I don't have a right to comment on it. But I am a football fan, and so my opinion is, you know, how can you give a club legend who was a player the manager's job? Now, if it was a case of they needed the fan base to reconnect with the club, that's absolutely fine. But they've already proven that they can do that with a winning manager who's proven. You know, after finishing 10th in 2015-16, they brought in Antonio Conte, winner with Juventus over in Italy. His first season he wins the Premier League. You know, Frank Lampard, his only experience is 1 year at Derby. You know, he did well, but he did what was expected with the squad that he had at his disposal. Young players, he did well with them, and ironically a couple of them are at Chelsea. Mason Mount, Tomori. It'll be interesting to see how they do. They've also got this transfer ban, meaning that they do have to play some of the youngsters, so Abraham as well will get an opportunity. I really don't know where I stand on Chelsea this season. I don't think the squad looks fantastic. Obviously Hazard is gone. Yeah, I'm not convinced that they're going to have a good one this year. I do think they'll stay in the top 6 only because their squad is that good. I hope Lampard does well. You know, he's a fantastic player. I've got nothing against him. I just think the fact that they've given him the job is a bit absurd. That, in my opinion. Now, in 5th, the other Europa League spot, I've put Manchester United. I really don't think they're going to have a good season again. I'm not convinced by Solskjaer at all. There are loads of cracks in the squad at the moment. They were supposed to have this massive overhaul and they still haven't had it. They might do in the last week of the window after I film this, but it just doesn't look good. Wan-Bissaka, great signing, but he's not going to change the whole team. You know, the morale's poor at the moment. Fans are really disappointed, paying all that money for season tickets. They were told they were going to have this massive squad overhaul, and even if they have 3-4 big money players coming in the last week, they haven't had pre-season with Manchester United. It's not as good as it could have been and what was promised to the fans, so I feel sorry for them. Hopefully Man United can do well, because obviously it's a big club, but I really don't think they're going to set their world alight this season, and I think it's 5th for them. Now the next team would be higher if they bought a centre-back and helped their defence out. That is Arsenal in 4th. Now, I think their attack looks absolutely stunning. It's incredibly dangerous. Now they're bringing in Nicolas Pepe from Lille, but the defence still looks like a shambles. They've still got Mustafi. Socrates did pretty well last season, but you know, could do better. Koscielny is obviously going to go at some point. If not, he's been frozen out of the team completely. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one with Arsenal. I think they would be finishing higher if they invested into a centre-back. They may still do that. It's looking like they're going to bring Rugani in, potentially on loan from Juventus, and then I would put them around 3rd. At the moment, I still think their defence is going to cost them. You know, they're going to ship goals. They're going to score plenty, but they're still going to ship goals, and so we'll have to see. But I do think it's going to be a top 4 finish finally for Arsenal under Unai Emery this season. 3rd, I put Tottenham, Arsenal's neighbours. They would be lower, but thankfully for them, Arsenal haven't invested into their defence. You know, I think people have started to work out Tottenham a little bit. Pochettino even admitted that he thought about stepping down after the Champions League final. If Kane doesn't stay fit, they are absolutely screwed when it comes to goal scoring. Llorente's now gone away, he was released. They don't really have a decent backup option in the striking department. I think bringing in Jack Clark was good, but he's obviously had to go back to Leeds on loan. Ndombele will probably be a good signing, but he's a central defensive midfielder, so how we can change that much, I'm not too convinced. So as long as they stay solid at the back, I think they'll be fine, and as long as they keep Kane Lucas Moura, Heung-min Son, Dele Alli, etc. fit, you know, it's going to be another good season for Spurs. Now, this is where it becomes interesting. So, in second, I have put Manchester City. Now, that's not because I don't think their squad is very good. Their squad is incredible. It's more because they need to focus on the Champions League this year. I've seen Man City fans all over the social media saying that now they need that Champions League. Even the players want it. I think there was an interview with Kyle Walker saying, you know, it's going to be disappointing if they don't win the Champions League at some point, especially under Pep. This is the best chance to do it. They need to focus on that. You know, I think that's going to pave the way for Liverpool to win the league because they've obviously just won the Champions League. But once again, I think it's going to be a two-horse race for the league, but maybe they will actually prioritise Europe. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think the fact they haven't replaced Company could be a problem, but Rodri's a very good signing, being in the middle, sort of breaking up play. And of course, they've still got a very, very dangerous attack. With Jesus getting a little bit older as well, he looks a bit more mature. He had a very good Copa America. So yeah, very exciting times for City. Hopefully they can go and win the Champions League. And then it's exciting times for Liverpool. Once again, I think they will be winning the Premier League title this season. So close last year. And it was just a matter of one or two games where they weren't at their best and dropped points that cost them in the end. Losing one game all season is just a fantastic achievement. And you know, they haven't really brought any players in, but that could go to their advantage actually. In their pre-season, they haven't done well. Let's be honest, they haven't done well, but that's mainly because they've missed their key players who've been either at the Copa America or the African Cup of Nations. They'll be back, and hopefully after 3 or 4 games, maybe in that first international break, they'll be back ready again and be a really good team. Their first choice team won't have changed from last season, and they know each other better. They've been together for another year, and you know, that extra bit of chemistry that may just help them get the few more points that they need to beat City to the title. Obviously, we don't need to go through how good their team is. The defence is sorted out, their attack is very potent. So I think this is going to be Liverpool's year. I hate to say it, but I really do. Alright guys, that is the end of the video. If you've agreed or disagreed, let me know in the comment section below. Try and stay nice, of course. It's just my personal opinion. Explain why you agree or why you disagree, that'd be good. You know, I'm very interested to hear what fans think of their season ahead of the new campaign. Remember to like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you very soon.